How do you ensure that the context is known within your organisation?
The best way to ensure that the context is understood throughout the organisation is to make sure that it's communicated through information awareness and training.
Some companies that you go to, they want to get their tick on the first part of the ISO clause, and they'll have it written down and probably in their manual and maybe in some registers, but it doesn't go much further than that. So the challenge is always making the stuff that you do for quality actually matter. And if you want to make it actually matter, it has to spread through a bit more than, the manager's office. So why not bring it up in toolbox talks and those sorts of things? Challenge the guys and say, okay, what could go wrong here, guys? What are some other opportunities for us to improve in the areas of quality, health and safety, those sorts of areas which do have this context clause in them? So toolbox talks, team meetings, safety committee meetings, those sorts of things are a great opportunity.
Your current communication and consultation mechanisms are really going to be a key strategy or key tools that you can use to ensure that people across your organisation at all levels understand the context of your organisation. So in plain English, those internal and external issues that could impact on your intended performance, as well as the expectations of stakeholders. That's good practice. I have seen not so good practice, or as an organisation you won't get as much value out of it if you simply, as a compliance team, identify the context, stick it in a register and not communicate about it. So that this step is really important.
So once you've figured out your context of the organisation, you obviously want to make sure that everybody knows about it. And that's about, well, for a start, get them involved in developing it. Get them, workshops are really good for that. Get the input, put it all together, and when you finish it, publish it, tell people about it. So that might be a town hall meeting, that might be one-on-ones as you go through people's reviews. It could be any number of ways, but you want to talk about it and talk about it often. So don't just do it once and then forget about it. You want to keep referring back to it as well. And as you do your quarterly reviews, again, having a look at that context, make sure it's still valid, and then communicate that back out. So talk about it, talk about it, talk about it is what we have to do.
Normal consultation process, which would have happened in the previous step when we were identifying those issues and also those stakeholders. But one thing to remember is that the context should be ingrained into your system. So the fact that people they may not be able to just explain it directly, but the fact that they can explain the system and what they're doing and following those processes and procedures, to me more than shows that they actually understand the context and how they're going to operate within that particular system itself.
Well, if we're using a variety of different tools and techniques to be able to define the context, such as the discovery register or various different prompter registers that we use with our clients, those can be utilized to create awareness within the organization for who we are, where we are, and what we do. That could be incorporated into induction presentations for visitors, contractors, and your own employees. But it's a key element for all workers to be able to understand the who, the where, the what, the why, and the how of the business as part of that identifying and understanding the context of the organization.
So again, this is quite an interesting one. I'm not overly convinced that using the terminology of passing the information of the context organization throughout the business is actually a requirement. I think it's absolutely clear that people need to know what the business is about. People need to understand the impact that can happen where there are internal issues or external issues. So people need to know within their part of the business what impact they may have on the context and what the context is. But I would go back to simple terms and maybe not use that terminology per se within the business. So when you're dealing with warehouse operatives that are maybe bringing in product from external suppliers, explaining to them about the context and explaining a SWOT analysis might not be the right audience to do that with. So I would probably make it much more simpler to just simply explain to them how important their role is in ensuring that the business runs as smoothly as possible, and that some of the weaknesses that there could be in the area that they work in, ensuring that parts arrive on time, ensuring that there's no damage, etc., etc. So I think it's important to recognise that the terminology around the context of the organisation as a whole should be known and throughout sort of management, supervisor, director level. But I think when you get down to boots on the ground people, I'm not overly convinced that they need to know that full organisational structure of the context.
So to ensure that your context is known throughout the organisation, you should toolbox this with your teams or at things like town halls and those things, and regularly talk about why decisions that have been made within the business have been made and how that relates to the context. If it doesn't relate to the context, the question is, why are you doing it? Most people in the world are more than happy to do just about anything as long as they understand the why, not just the what. Why are we going in starting at 4 o'clock in the morning? Well, we're doing that because the kinds of clients we want, they start work at 6, so we need to be ready for them. Those sorts of things tells the people the why behind the what. So communicate it, talk about it, talk about it, talk about it.
If you enjoyed this video, click on the link to view the next compliance conversation.